All right, how's it going, everybody? Trevor, Randles Outdoors here. And we are continuing on with the boat build, you guys, on this new boat. So it's taken me about 2 years to get everything, but I finally got everything that I need to get done what I want done. So we're gonna show you. We got a whole table full of goodies here. But first, let me run through a few things. So we are going to have to run a 3 battery system, unfortunately. I decided to go with 2 lithium batteries, one for the house battery and one for the trolling motor. And I had to get a 24 volt for the trolling motor because I got a free 24 volt trolling motor. I just need a foot pedal circuit board. So that's pretty cool. We're going ahead, we just got done with a lot of the pulling out the old rotten foam, the water logged foam. We have hatches that we have cut out. We've reinforced the bench. We've done quite a bit. So on this wiring part of this boat build, I was able to pick up this nice little side console. I thought I was gonna have to get one custom made, but they actually sell these on Amazon, and it's a pretty thick aluminum. It's made for John boats. You might have to custom cut it just a little bit to fit the angle of your John boat. So I was able to get that, and that has enough room for me to fit my switchboard and my radio, and then my fish finder on top. My only concern is, do I have enough room for all the wires inside? Gonna be a tight fit, but we're gonna do our best and see if we can make that work. If not, we might have to go a custom route. A few things that we're gonna do. So I am going to, with the motor, I have that power jack plate, electric jack plate. So I am actually going to rewire it, and I'm going to try to run the wire up and through the tiller handle and attach a new switch on the side of the tiller handle. So that way, because before the switch was back here, so I had to reach back behind me, let go of the tiller handle, run up and down with a jack plate. I didn't quite like that setup, so I wanted to change it up. So we're going to go ahead and do that. The bilge pumps in the boat are still good, still working, so I'm just going to rewire those. And the navigation lights, there was not any front navigation lights, but I did find out with this rear navigation light, there is wires that are running, and it's actually pretty cool. They're running through this top rail of the boat all the way to the front, and there's a little section sticking out up there. So I'm gonna try and see if I can pull through some brand new wiring, marine grade wire, because it's not coated, or it's coated wire, but it's not the duplex wire with the big white coating around it, which is more protective. So I'm going to see if I can pull that wire through and run my navigation lights on that. So we already have our front navigation lights. We set those up last year. They were very helpful for cruising on the river. I just did a quick job on them. Alligator clips connected into the front battery. Originally, the batteries on this boat were mounted right in here where the floor, there's a back seat, and there was a battery box that was right there. I didn't quite like that setup, and there was also a front battery right up against the front deck. So now, with the way that I'm gonna have this boat set up, and especially going lithium, it's gonna be really nice being so light. The house battery is gonna go back in that back corner pod of the boat. And I went big, you guys. The reason I went big, so I was able to get a lithium 320 amp hour 12 volt. It is a smart Bluetooth battery, self-heating, everything. It's all the fancy, the works. Do I need that big of a battery? Possibly not. The reason I went with that big of a battery, though, the idea is, I mean, I plan on doing weekend trips, you guys, and especially if I'm going, you know, further out. I want this boat to be able to last. I don't want to have to always be charging it every evening. So with that being said, we're going to be running so we have interior lights, exterior lights, front lights, rear lights, navigation lights. We're also going to have charging ports for the GoPros for our channel, so that we can run the GoPros and charge them and be running all day on the GoPros while in the boat, so we're not sitting there changing batteries out. That's been one of my things I want to do for a while. The radio, we're going to reuse our Garmin head unit from the Live Scope, and we bought a quick mount, quick detach cradle, so we can keep the Live Scope still usable, and be able to run the graph on the boat transducer. So we have a transducer to put on. We went with the GT56 transducer. I got it on a deal. Let's see. Other than that, so unfortunately, when you guys are running batteries on boats, if you do want to switch to lithiums, it is highly unrecommended to use a lithium as your outboard starting battery. The reason being, the outboards are set up with the way that their alternators or stators work. They will not correctly charge the lithium. Like, the lithium has a special microchip in it where you get to a certain charge, it tops off, and it'll actually shut down the charging. And with the outboard, it can't turn off the charging from running. So if it continues to try to run power to the battery and the battery's not letting it go, the power's getting basically not used on the alternator stator, and you will literally burn out your charging system on your outboard, and it is not cheap, you guys. I found that out after I went with both lithiums, but in all honesty, I wanted lithium batteries. I want the weight loss, I want the bigger capacity. It was nice to be able to go with the 24 volt battery. I end up doing 100 amp hour, which that battery's already here, but we end up going with a EcoBoss one. It was just a good one. It was on sale. And the house battery is going to be a Lithium, and then we still have to pick up a starter battery that is going to be an AGM battery. It's going to match the cold cranking amps for the outboard, and it's a fairly small battery, but it's still heavy. Like, you got a Group 24 battery that is the AGM, and it's 44 pounds, and our big 320 amp hour battery is probably like 3 times the size. I don't know, it's pretty compact though, and it only weighs like 51 pounds, I think is what it said. So quite the big difference. But that's what we're doing for the batteries. Real quick, something that would really help out. So all John boats pretty much have these, but if you look, there's already one there, but I want to extend it. If you look behind the ribs of the boat, the vertical ribs, and you have that recessed indent in the boat, one of my favorite things to do if you want to make a really clean install, it's not regular PVC, you guys. It is CPVC, so it's water line, and it's got a thinner wall to it, so you can fit more wiring through it. You have more room. So we're going to go ahead and extend those, and I want the PVC going into each bench. I don't want any wires exposed like it is here, where you see the wires sticking up and out because of the way that the wiring was before. I want all the wires as much as possible contained. I do not want them out easy to, you know, snag on or break or anything like that, or get sun damaged. So we'll be running those. That'll be one of the first things we do. We're gonna cut to length. We'll probably repaint them just to make it look good, and go ahead and attach them. We're gonna do one on each side. We have a lot of wires going in this boat, you guys, so anywhere we can fit a wire that's gonna work, great. Like, we just have to make sure they all fit. So now let's go over to our table of goodies here. So to start off, we have our switchboard. Pretty cool. I like the American flag. It just, I was drawn to it, and it's all blue lights. And to go with the switchboard, and I'll explain the bus bars later, but I have a reason that I want bus bars. But you want to run your switchboard, you want to get a fuse block, battery shutoffs, and circuit breakers, you guys. So that starts a lot of the electrical that we have here. So now my other plan is I also have some shallow mount flush LED lights for the back of the boat. Now, I put lights on the back of my old boat, but they were pod lights sticking up. Sometimes they get in the way, but I'll tell you what, they were so helpful to have. Like, when you're, especially if you're on the river, you're going up, setting a ditty pole in a log jam or something, and you have very tight space to back out, flip on those lights, you can see everything. You don't have to run headlamps, all that kind of stuff that, you know, changing batteries out all the time. So those are going to be pretty neat to have. They are waterproof, and we're going to mount them above the water line anyways, and then we'll seal them off. That's what you want to get, some 5200 sealant. That stuff is really good. So now the other thing, so like I said, we're doing interior and exterior lights. Having lights for filming, not having to reach up, turn on a light, and then turn the camera on. Everything's planned out on this boat, you guys. So our interior lights are actually LED strip lights. And the exteriors, I should say. So with the exterior lights, we're going to be running them just under this top rail, all the way down the boat. And it'll go wrap around into the back, almost to the motor. And then our interior lights are going to be all the way from the front of the boat all the way down to the back of the boat. So we're just going to run one line on each side. That should suffice. That should do. I almost thought about running some down here, but this is enough lights going in it, you guys. We have a lot of lights going in this boat. So in order to do that, we have, it's nice, they have dimmable features, which if you guys have ever used lights on a boat, definitely see if you can find some that have a dimmable feature on them, or add a dimmer knob to them, because there are times where those lights are still too bright, the bugs are going to swarm you, and you don't want that to happen. Like, you want to try to keep as many bugs away from you as possible, so you can actually enjoy your fishing and not get swarmed in the face and everything else. It's horrible. So next, we'll go to the radio. So we got a Boss system radio, nice little round one. It's like a 3.5 inch circle, and we got some Scar 6.5 inch speakers, which I already have one temporarily mounted in the boat here, but we're going to do speakers on all four corners of the benches. And to make ease of install, now you guys, it's a little bit extra money, but buying the hole saw to cut out, you read the description on the speakers or anything that you're going to be mounting in your boat, figure out the hole size, and if you can buy a hole saw on Amazon, usually they're not terribly expensive. The reason I did the hole saws was because I wanted the cleanest install possible. You could go in there with a jig or a smaller hole saw and make multiple holes, but this saves time and it makes it a lot cleaner install. So to go with that, we also have some marine grade speaker wire. All right, so that covers the lights and the radio. Yes. So now we have multiple different sizes of marine grade wire here. This is marine grade adhesive shrink wrap, and we have multiple sizes of that as well. Everything's going to be fully waterproof in this build, you guys. But we have 6 gauge for our house battery wire to the fuse block, and then we have 8 gauge wire, which is what we're going to be running a few different things. I think, well, let's see, 8 gauge. I'll have to check my notes to be sure. I had to write down a whole bunch of notes on all this stuff, you guys. I was either going to run 6 gauge or 8 gauge for the live scope, because the length of run that I'm going to have from the live scope to the power, I want to make sure that it is correct. So when you're doing any type of electrical, always look up whatever accessory that you're putting in and look at the amp draw on it. So make sure that there's easy charts to follow out there. You put in the length of the run of wire that you're going to use, and you want to check and see how much amperage, and it'll tell you what size of wire you need to use in that application. So in that case, we have everything correct. We have all the right sizes. We have more than we need. But so 6 gauge, 8 gauge, 14 gauge, 16 gauge, and we have some extra 14 gauge without the white coating on it, so that'll be helpful later on. Something that'll come in handy, we have some inline waterproof fuses. We have trolling motor plug-ins here. We have SAE flush mount plug-ins, and that's going to come in play for the live scope. And also I'm going to do an extra battery charger for that starting battery, because I could not get what I wanted, and I'll explain that here in a bit. We also have some USB and USB Type-C plugins. They are on off. Switch, there's a switch on that you can turn them on and off whenever you want, so that's cool. I like that. I don't have to run them to a switch on the switchboard because we only have 6 switches, you guys, so we can only do so much. So then you need all your different connectors. All these are the heat shrink connectors, waterproof, everything matches. We also have crimps that are the solder seal wire crimps, so we'll continue being waterproof there. We also have a really handy trolling motor plug that's a twist on, because I did forget to say, we're going to, because if you guys watched some of my previous videos, I run a 12-volt aerator on my bait tank cooler. So with that being in the boat, instead of carrying a battery around and connecting it to the battery on the floor and leaving the battery on the floor with the cooler, we were going to run a plug somewhere in the front of the boat and be able to plug into our 12-volt system with our aerator, and that doesn't pull much power. Aerators don't pull too much. So covered that. These fancy I don't remember what they call them, saddle type cable tie mounts. So you can either screw these in, you can use 3M strip tape, which I have here. We're going to be using that on a few different applications on this boat. So that'll help manage all of our wires and everything, keep a nice clean install. And then we also have a grommet set, and anywhere that you're going to be running wires through metal, you need to have a grommet, because over time those wires can rub and chafe and then end up creating a short, and you don't want that. With our fish finder, like I said, we're going with our Garmin head unit. We got the quick detach plate, back plate, and it's going to be on a Randles setup, set up on top of our console. We got our transducer, and so on this boat, you guys, the way the transducer is set up, and I don't think I can change it because of the space from the pods, because we have pods on this boat. I've broken 3 different transducers on this boat now, and it gets expensive. Transducers are horribly expensive. And, you know, a lot of times it was just duck hunting, because you'd be walking around the back of the boat and you don't remember the transducer is there. And once you break it, and if you don't notice it, like the last one, the prop ate it. So definitely something that we're trying to fix here. But we have a spring back transducer mount, and then it's also got a armored transducer mount, that plate that it mounts to. So hopefully between that, it will flip up when we need it to, and I can possibly even store it up while we're hunting so that I don't accidentally hit it. If that works, it's awesome. And then it's also creates protection from side to side too. Once again, like I said, we have the hole saws. I got a hole saw for the radio to make that simple, and we got a hole saw to do all of the flush mount plugs on the boat as well. And did I miss something here? Nope, that's the power wire for my fish finder. Now, last but not least, we have a dual battery 2-bank charger, you guys. So a 24 volt, I mean, it doesn't say 24 volt and 12 volt, but that's what this is for, charging. It'll charge the lithium batteries all at once. And we also have a flush mount plug-in for it, so we don't have to pull any plugs out. We just pull this cap off, plug in an extension cord. Both our lithium batteries are charging at 10 amps, and perfect. So the other option that I have, and I think it was Send It John Boats that did this, and I like the idea. Really simple. I don't have to buy another battery charger, onboard battery charger, but I have a couple of those lithium mix. They do every battery, they charge everything. It's a little compact unit, but I'm going to connect that to a flush mount SAE plug, and that way, and yes, we're running 2 extension cords, but we can charge all 3 batteries at that point. There's no way to charge everything, I don't believe. Like I want to say I found one onboard battery charger like that would do all 3, and it was like $500-600 bucks, completely out of my price range. So that is the gist of everything. We are going to be running through it all. I am no master electrician, you guys, so I could be doing some things wrong. But in my knowledge and from everything that I've watched and researched, I have everything planned out to where it should work. And everything's safe, because you want to be safe when wiring anything electrical stuff. You cannot mess around with. You can't skimp out on it if you can help it. You don't have to go this extreme. Like, this is a huge build, you guys. Like, this is unreal how much we're putting into this boat, but it's gonna be one and done. I don't have to mess with it ever again. The boat will be set up the way I want it, and pretty awesome. So a lot of the stuff I don't do as well explaining, but like, I'll probably try. The first things first, I'm going to be cutting my switch panel and my radio mount out of the console, and then we'll get those mounted, and then we're going to be able to start running wires, and we'll get the PVC in the side rails of the boat. So first things first, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to pull that side console off the boat, and because I made it where it's removable for easy access in case I need to get to the fuse block. The other option I have, if I want, is I can also pull out the switch panel and access the fuse block that way. But we'll try to get the holes cut for the switch panel and the radio in the console, and then we can start running wires to, we'll probably start with our lights because they're already on the boat, and the bilge pumps, and we'll start running our wires, putting our PVC in, getting everything situated. I'll try to bring you guys in whenever I'm doing something, but I won't show every little detail, but I'll explain everything to you guys as best I can. So I don't know how long this is going to take. Like I said, it's a lot of stuff that's going in the boat, but we're going to go ahead and get started. So hopefully you guys are following along with this boat build and enjoying it, and maybe it'll give you some ideas for your boat. All right, let's get to it. All right, so since I have my wiring going in each bench with a CPVC, I can't say that right, I'm going to run it about 1 inch to 2 inches inside each bench. So we will take a measurement from bench to bench through this rail, and then we'll add our appropriate measurement, and that's what we know to cut, and then we can send it through. This stuff is pretty bendable, but you still want to be somewhat careful with it. But it works through those ribs really easily, and you're able to get it through. So I'm gonna have to shove it all the way back into the bench far enough, and then I'll bring it back forward and get it up inside the edge here behind the bench seat. So then that'll give us our wiring loom, I should say, and then we'll go ahead and replace the other one on the other side and be able to make it reach through both on both sides here. So that's our first up job, and we'll go ahead and get that measured out. Easy to cut. I don't have to show this. It's pretty simple and self-explanatory, you guys. Something I did forget to mention, I am using 3/4 inch CPVC. That's what room I have in the boat ribs, but every boat could possibly be different, so definitely make sure you get a small piece or test fit it or measure it, whatever you can do, to be able to see what you need for the size. So, but 3/4 inch CPVC is what we're using on this boat. All right, so we got the first side of the PVC in, and went pretty well. Didn't take too long. I also have to run the wires up and keep them somewhat covered going into the console. I have a 1 inch conversion from the 3/4 to 1 inch with a T and a elbow. So that'll run the wires up into the console, and then somehow we'll attach that into the console to where it's secure. So that one's done, and I think I decided I pushed this one forward so it's all the way up in the front. And since this 1 inch coupler, I didn't know if that was going to fit in there or not, and it does. I'm just going to put a 1 inch coupler in there and a little piece of 3/4, and we'll save that other stretch for a different project. So that'll work. We can reuse what's there. There's nothing wrong with it. And yeah, so unfortunately Menards is closed already. I don't know anywhere else that would be open that would do that. So I can either wait to wire that side of the boat, or whatever wires I run through, I have to make sure I run through the pieces that I'm going to add to it as well, and then run it down the line and into it. But we're going to continue on, and I think we're going to try to pull the navigation lights through first. I've already got the wires unhooked back here. I'm going to have to cut the wire that's going to the anchor light, and I'm going to attach maybe on the front end and pull my new wires through this way if I can. If it doesn't work, I'm not going to pull too much. I don't want to mess that up, because getting wires through this may not be too easy. So we'll see. All right, so we ran into an issue with the navigation wires. Pulled these through without the new wire coming. So I've tried multiple things to fish down through. It starts all the way up here, up underneath the deck, runs all the way to the back, and I've gotten within 2 feet of it and everything just keeps getting jammed up that I'm trying to use. So jumped on Amazon, bought a inexpensive fiberglass fish snake that's a really small diameter, and we're gonna go ahead and give that a try tomorrow. It'll be here. And so we can still mount the navigation lights. Let me turn the light on here. And I got these nice ones that are a hard strip, but they also have 3M tape on the back, and why I really wanted them, they have spots for screw holes. So all I'm gonna do, if you notice the wire comes off the back, we're gonna drill a hole for the wire, and then we'll have a hole for the screw, and we will seal this wire with 5200 sealant. But we're just gonna put our navigation lights on each side here. I was gonna do up here right up front, but if I go too high, which this plate here, protective plate, won't let me come lower, I'll hit an inside framing of the deck and I won't be able to get the wire through. So we're gonna go ahead and go on this side. We'll pre-drill the holes and then pull the sticky tape off. We took and we degreased it, sprayed it off, wiped it down clean so we have a good surface to stick to. And green, right? Yeah, green goes on the right side, red goes on the left. We'll have the wires ready for when we get the fish snake and get the wires pulled through. So, but we can move on to my next thing. So for the live scope, you can get away with 10 gauge wire, but being a longer run, it's gonna be about 10 to 11 feet. They say you don't want voltage drop, and just in case, I want to make sure I don't have any, especially since I'm running the higher frequency LVS 36. So these will be super simple to run. So like I said, I put that T in there so that I can bring stuff up to the console, just get the wire started. And I'll tell you what, guys, you can't get much easier than that. So we'll go ahead and run this all the way to the front of the deck. We'll grab the negative wire, run that one, and pick what we're gonna run next for wiring. I'm like a squirrel right now. I got ADHD. Anyways, we got our wire started for our bait tank plug. What I'm gonna actually do now, I'm going to start getting my plugs in place and connecting the wires. And then that way we have all of our extra wire going back to the console, and we can trim it if needed. Everything's done from that point back. So kind of a little bit backwards. I should do the switch panel first, but I'm trying to wait to do that. Don't know why. But we're going to go ahead and start connecting these connectors. The first one is an 8 gauge wire SAE connector, weatherproof. And that is how we're going to connect our live scope, because I use a extension battery. I made an SAE plug for the live scope. That's how I attach all my batteries. And then when I was ice fishing for the weekend, I would just connect it to my 100 amp hour lithium, and it would power the live scope all weekend in the sleeper house. So that's what I want to do with the boat. We're gonna have the live scope on here where it's still in the shuttle. I like the idea of that. I don't want to mount it into the boat. So our first plug is going to go up here, and then our GoPro plug is going to probably take up that hole that's already made there. Bait tank plug's probably going to take up the hole that's over there by the speaker. And then we'll have, I think that's about it. There might be more. I have to keep looking at my list to see what I'm doing. So we're going to go ahead. We've got a step drill bit to get the right size of the base without being too big of a hole that's going to be outside the flush mount. So we'll go ahead and get this mounted and wired up. Alright, so we got our hole drilled, nice and snug, nice and flush to the deck. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to cut the plug off of this, because we're going to use the plug on the other end of the wires coming from the console. And we will butt splice in with our waterproof connections and then also hit it with some heat shrink tape. Alright, hopefully you can see me. Alright, so we've got our wire stripped on both connector and the live scope lines that go to the console. You want to make sure you twist your wires and get the appropriate sized shrink butt splices. Make sure they're sunk in there good. We've already stripped our other leads here. And we cut the appropriate sized heat shrink tubing. Yep, that's the wrong one. There we go. Okay. Just barely fits over the butt splice. So we'll actually put these, start them on the longer runs that we have down here. And we'll use those once we're done with the butt splice. Not only will it help protect, like I said, these have an adhesive inside of them. They're marine grade shrink wrap, or shrink tubing, heat shrink tubing, yeah, there we go. So that when you go to shrink them, the glue will actually seal as well. So not only are we going to get a seal from the butt splices, we're going to get an overall seal with the shrink wrap tape too. And I overlapped it like 2-3 inches on each side. So now do yourself a favor, get you a heat gun. Don't use the lighters and burn your wires and stuff. You're just cooking the insulation. I'm not saying that it won't work, but definitely not ideal. Especially when you can pick up heat guns extremely cheap, you guys. Alright, so just so I don't have any issues, I'm going to put both these together. Let's see if you can see me here. Of course, black to black, red to red. Make sure they seat good, have plenty of contact. Nice thing about these shrink butt splices, you can see through them, so you can see where the wires are at. Go ahead and get your heat gun. Okay, I almost forgot. Guess I must be burning out here. So the heat shrink tubing butt splices, you have to use a crimper on. I got some nice lineman's pliers. They work really well, especially for the bigger gauges. So we're getting seated. Give her cranked down. Check your connection. Make sure it doesn't pull out so you don't have to redo it. Alright, now we can hit it with the heat gun. Just watch it just shrink right on up. Alright, that one's good. Make sure you don't touch the butt splices together while they're hot, because they're going to be sticky. You want to let them cool off for a bit. You know it's sealed when you start seeing the glue come out of the end of the butt splice. So we'll go ahead and let those cool off a little bit, and then we'll come back in and we'll put our shrink tape over it and get that settled. Alright, cooled off. Run your shrink tubing over it. Make sure it's in the middle. And then go ahead and hit that with the heat gun as well. Alright, those are done. Make sure you be mindful of where you put your heat gun. Alright, we'll let that cool off for a while, and then we'll go ahead and pull the wires through a little bit. We'll give ourselves a little bit of slack so that we can still pull that plug out if need be. Then we're done on this end, other than we got to run some screws into the front deck on the mount. I'll run some zip ties around it to keep both the cables together. The other option you have is you can do some more heat shrink tubing, but you need a really big size for 8 gauge, you guys. Some of the smaller wires will probably do that just to give them strength, but the 8 gauge we don't need to. Other than that, make sure whatever you're attaching in your boat, you guys, is stainless steel or aluminum. So like your fasteners, so I have a bunch of self tappers of stainless steel, and they will not rust on the boat. That's one bad thing that I did with the old boat. Some of the new stuff that I bought, when I redid the wiring on it, I used the provided screws, and they were not stainless steel, and they end up rusting, and it looks horrible. So just do yourself a favor, get you a whole kit, just assorted sizes. You'll need a lot of them. Some of them you might even have to order more, and use the stainless steel or aluminum rivets if you're riveting, but most of it's going to be self-tapping stainless steel screws. All right, so just quick update. We have all the speaker wires ran, we have the live scope wire ran, and we have a bait tank plug ran. And then I'm gonna work on the bilge pumps next, and hopefully the plan is the front lights and a navigation light base is going to go up front, and I'm going to try to put those through the top rail on the left side of the boat. On the right side of the boat, I'm going to do the navigation lights and the interior and exterior lights. All those take smaller wires, so I think I should be able to fit them fairly well. And the only downside that I came across so far was I did have my house battery wires ran through this pipe, but when I did that, I did not have enough room to do anything else hardly. So we went back to the drawing board. I'm going to bring it out, so now when the floor's in, the floor is going to be hiding any wires coming across here, and it's also out of the water path. So I will take and I'll attach it to the front of that bench and bring it over here, and probably run some PVC or something through the floor and come straight up into the side console. So that saves us a lot of room, not having to hide those 6-gauge wires. And then anytime you're going through anything metal, so I showed you guys I had those grommets. So you drill a hole and get a grommet in, grommet. So that way everything's protected, your wires aren't going to get cut, rubbed, anything like that. So yeah, we're getting somewhere. I'm going to take a break and then I'm going to actually work on the console, because I remembered I have pieces of aluminum that I'm going to be screwing into, and I'm going to attach those to the console with JB Weld along with the bus bars. So we need to get going on that so that can cure and be ready for us when we're ready. So I'm going to go ahead and get all the measurements, get it all measured out, get the switch panel in, get the radio in. I'll work on mounting the fish finder, and then we'll see what time it is at that point, and we might call it a night. We'll see. But getting somewhere. I wasn't too happy about having to run the house battery wires through the floor though, but it saves the most space for the biggest wires there is, which gives us a lot more space to put wires through this pipe down here, which we might need for the bilge pumps and the USB charger for the back of the boat for the GoPro. And the only other thing I can think of would be the rear lights. That would be the only other one I'd have to run through this. So we're not going to start sticking any of the wires up on the metal just yet. We're going to wait until we get the switch panel in so that we can do that, and we'll tidy everything up. And I've still got one more speaker hole to cut. I haven't hit that yet, but we'll get there. It's gonna come together nice. The only thing I've been thinking about is I want to do some sort of labels or something for the plugs up here for the bait tank, and the trolling motor will be over there, the live scope. I kind of want some sort of sticker or something, some sort of label to show what they are. Not that if anybody plugs in, I mean, you don't want to plug the live scope into the 12-gauge wire. It would work, but eh. And we could have gotten away with probably doing 10-gauge wire for the live scope, but like I said, I didn't want to lose any voltage, so we end up running that 8-gauge, which took up a lot of space in this PVC. We are maybe one more wire can get in there, maybe. That's a big maybe. So we'll see. Maybe that'll be the GoPro for that side. Who knows? That or the left side. I'm trying to plan it all out, but we're gonna go ahead and work on the side console. We're getting to it. We already got the radio hole drilled. Went pretty well, especially since this is such a thick aluminum, you guys. This is really thick. We just measured it out, found center, and marked it for center, punched it and drilled it. Now on the switch assembly, if you guys are getting one of these style of switches, that's not, because they have some that are already boxed in and enclosed, you have to remove all the wires and switches to be able to template out what you're doing. I mean, you can try to do it without doing it, but this is so much easier. The only thing I can say is when you get one of these switch panels, these switches have, you see those holes in the blades? There's a little like safety latch, and it's right here in between the two blades. And you have to get either a little pin, I was just using a punch, and you have to push that blade out and away from the switch blade, and then it will release. There's like a little indent divot that's inside the blade, the wire. It will release the spade connector off of the blade of the switch. Do not just yank them off. You will break the switches, and then you have to sit there and wait and buy a switch. So get that off, all the wiring, pull the switches off. Switches are really easy, just a couple tabs on the back. You pinch and pull off. All the top chargers are all nuts on them. And then go ahead and lay out your, let me see if I can do this. Lay out your faceplate and just trace it out. And then you have a couple options. So one option you have is you can just cut, as long as you give space for the holes, for the mounting holes, you can just cut one big square out of this section. As long as you make room for the switches and everything to fit through, and you don't take away the holes to be able to screw in. The other option is, and you can't really see it on here, there you go, I just traced out the outlines of all the holes, and just by luck, my 1.1/8" hole saw that I have is perfect size for those top round holes. And then I think the bottom ones, I think we're just going to drill a couple holes in the corners, and we're going to jigsaw that out. So should make this a little bit easier, and then we can have just about everything mounted. For the fish finder, I'm going to actually bolt it with nuts on the bottom. That way it's more secure than a self-tapper. So definitely don't want that heavy of a fish finder wobbling around and breaking those bolts loose. Who knows what kind of damage you'll do. So we're going to go ahead and drill these 3 holes first, and then we will get the switches done. It's going to take a little bit. If you guys don't know how to use a jigsaw, pretty simple. Just drill the 4 corners out with a drill bit. You don't have to use a very big one, just big enough that the blade can fit in. And then make sure you have the right blade for the material that you're cutting. And when you have all 4 corners drilled out, it's just straight lines, which is fairly simple to follow. I mean, you can still sway a little bit, but it's not bad. So, all right, we're gonna get to it. So it was actually easier just to keep using that 1/8 hole saw. And I drilled double holes in the corners. I overlapped it just a little bit just to make sure we definitely have room. Plenty of room left to bite. Now we can come in and clean it up with the jigsaw, do these straight cuts here, and get rid of these little teeth looking things from the hole saw. And then we'll be good on this. We'll be ready to mount it. All right. Alright, well that actually went a lot quicker than I thought it would. So now what's left, test fit this, oh my goodness, excuse me. Test fit the switches. And then we can drill holes to get ready to mount it. Man, using that 1/8" hole saw definitely helped out a lot. That went fast. And then the jigsaw, I'm glad I got the heavy metal blades. So we're looking good, you guys. This is coming together a little bit faster. I mean, it is about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I've done this all weekend, you guys. Up all night, but I guess, you know, I work nights, so I'll just be ready for work tomorrow night. But we're gonna keep going until I'm too tired, which I don't feel it yet, and see how far we can get. I think we can get the console done, and I want to see if I can get those. The hard part is if we're going to be able to fit everything. Like I said, this is going to be a tight fit for everything, but I need to try to get this fuse box in here, and I also need to try to get bus bars, and from the looks of it, it's going to be really tight, so we'll have to figure that out. I'll do some brainstorming and see what I'm going to do. As we are about done for the night, we got everything mounted on the outside of the console. We got our switch panel, did some self tappers in it, easy to get out if we need to. The radio is on it. I haven't done any of the wiring inside yet. We got the fish finder mounted. I like that's on a ram ball so we can move it around if we need to. We can turn it, whatever we want to do there. The bus bars that I got end up being too long. And so I end up finding some smaller, shorter ones on Amazon. So I'm going to return these. And those shorter ones should have enough space to be able to mount in here. It's going to be really tight for the wiring, you guys. Like really, really tight. Yeah, it's going to be crazy. But the rest of the parts should show up later on today, probably by the time I go to work. So we won't be working on it just yet, but we will get everything situated. I'm going to do my best to explain the wiring of this and also the reason why I need bus bars. But we can do that after the wiring is done, and I can do my best to explain that and how the wiring works and wiring up a boat switch panel, you guys. Like I said again, I'll remind everybody, I'm no professional. I just trying to do better than the last time I did it. We're gonna go ahead and lock up for the night. I think we're good, and we'll see if we can start back up in the morning after work on Tuesday morning. Because I probably won't have, depends on what time I wake up. I might go come out here and get a few more things done, like the bilge pump wiring. I didn't get to that tonight. I've just been really trying to figure out this console and making sure it works right and everything's where I want it. So the wiring is going to be, oh my goodness. Like that's the hardest part is always cramming in so much wiring in such a little spot. So I want to do my best at trying to keep it nice and tidy. So, all right, we're going to head in for the night. It is just after 5 o'clock in the morning. I've done this all weekend, but you know what? I'm pretty happy because we've gotten pretty far on the boat, I feel like. My other hatches should be here this week so I can get all those mounted and situated. I still have yet to decide if I want to put hatches on this front deck. There just really isn't a lot of room under there with the speakers, so we may not do the hatches up there like I said earlier. But hopefully we can pick back up. I'll figure out where we were at and we will get this video keeping on going. So I will see you guys later. All right guys, we're actually working on the boat a little bit before work, and I can't tell you the struggle we had last night. So when I pulled those navigation wires through that top rail, I tried so many different things. I tried weed whacker line, I tried solid core Romex copper wire, tried fishing line, tried the vacuum method, tried everything to get something fed through this top rail, and it just would not work. The closest I got was like 2 feet away from it. But we ended up picking up on Amazon, fairly cheap. Like I think it was like 15 bucks. It's a fiberglass fish snake. And first try running it down, and we've got it out at the end. So now we can run our navigation lights. They have these nice little ends. Everything works pretty good. So we're gonna go ahead and run those wires now for work. We got about an hour before we have to leave. Didn't plan on working on the boat, but I wanted to see if that fish snake was going to work, and I'm so glad it did, you guys. So now that we can hide wires in that top rail, we're going to have, I think what I have planned out is I'm going to try to do 2 wires in each top rail. So I'm going to have the navigation lights and probably my front LED lights go through this top rail, and then the other top rail I'm going to run, what was I thinking? The UV light. Ooh, yeah, I just let that one go. We're making a UV light for the boat. We'll be running UV light on that. And then I think the interior and exterior lights are gonna run through that as well. So we might have 3 runs, but with the UV light and the interior exterior lights, they require smaller diameter wire, as long, you know, same as the navigation wires. So it'll be a lot smaller of a run, so I should be able to fit all 3 in that side. So we're gonna go ahead and start running some wires for the navigation lights first, and then we'll see how many wires we can get through these top rails. Pretty awesome that CR did that, so you can hide the wires inside the top rail. It gives you a lot more options. But fish snake's pretty easy to use, you guys. Like I said, it's a fiberglass fish snake is what it said. It's got two different ends. It's got one end with spring on it, one end without. Get it started down, just keep shoving it through and it'll find its way through there, and then you hook the wire on the end with the supplied cables and pull your wires through. So we're gonna go ahead and do that now. As we got that wire ran through, and then we ran the wire snake back. Had plenty of room to do it, but we're gonna use that first strand since it's 16 gauge for the spotlights. That matches the amperage draw that they're doing, actually a little bit extra, so that's good. The navigation lights, we can actually get away with a smaller wire, so we're going to be running an 18 gauge wire for the navigation lights, and then we also have, we can do 18 gauge for both the LED strip lights as well. So, but I got 30 minutes before I have to leave for work, so I'm gonna head inside, start getting ready, lock everything up out here, and we will continue this on later. I don't know if I'm gonna work on it tomorrow morning or not. Depends on how tired I am. We'll see. I should be going mushroom hunting, you guys. It's nice and warm today. But we got, like I said, we got our console done, and it's still curing, but I didn't want any bolts going in from the outside. So I actually JB welded some 1-inch square aluminum, and that is what we are going to mount our fuse block to. And then we're going to do the same thing for the new bus bars when we get those in. And we're going to have to mount those somewhere in the top, I'm assuming. That's the only spot that I have plenty of room. And then we're going to have the fun job of running all the wires to the switches and everything. That is going to be a job in itself, especially trying to keep it clean and tight and tidy. So we will come back, get started on this on another day, bring you guys along with, keep up with it. And oh yeah, and we also ran we have 10 gauge wire for our GoPro USB plugins, and I just ran those, and I'll explain the reason that they're running back to the battery compartment. I'll explain that later on. Between those and the bait tank, I want constant power to them when the battery switch, kill switch, is on. I don't want them running to a switch. The plug's not, the SAE plug for the bait tank is not going to take up any power, and the USBs have that on-off switch on them, so you can turn them off so that it's not pulling any power, which whatever power it is pulling with just those little blue lights on them isn't very much, so no big deal. But by running them back to the battery kill switch, we can just turn on the battery kill switch, no other power, we don't have to run switches or anything like that, and we can be able to record from the boat if the boat is parked, and the bait tank can run while we're driving. I kind of want to put it straight to the battery, and then just, you gotta make sure you fuse the lines and then have constant power. Haven't quite decided yet. I like the idea of it, so I don't have to turn on the switches on the boat all the time, or the kill switch, but we'll see. We'll figure it out. All right, gotta go to work, and I'll get back started on this later on. All right, you guys, we are back in the garage. I've got to try to remember where I left off. I believe I was getting ready to run the wires for the navigation lights. We got our 18 gauge wire in, and we've already got the fish snake through the rail, so we're gonna go ahead and pull those, and that will be for the navigation lights. And then we're gonna try to run the interior and exterior lights for this side, and possibly one more if we can. The interior and exterior lights we can use the 18 gauge for, and then the other light that I have going in, I have to use probably 16 or 14 for it. We're gonna go ahead and get these pulled through, get it ready. I've got the kids here now. I'll have Skylar jump in the boat and help me clean up some of the stuff. But we do have some good news. We got a message today saying we are a go for the aluminum sheeting through my buddy, and I am getting it at a steal, you guys. So we are gonna have a brand new lightweight aluminum floor in this boat, and I think that's gonna be awesome. So I don't know how soon I can get it all done, get it in, but hopefully by next week we'll be working on that. My goal is by the end of this weekend to have all the wiring done and cleaned up. But I still am thinking, I really do want some hatches on each side of this big hatch. I'm gonna have to go smaller, obviously, like I said, because of the wiring and the speakers and everything. But the big battery, the trolling motor battery, is gonna be going in this big hatch, so I lost all that storage space up here. I do plan on enclosing this, especially now that I have the metal. So I'm gonna enclose this, put in a hinge, and I'm gonna have some sort of cam lock assembly, I think, on is what I'm gonna do. But I still really want some sort of hatches on each side so that I can store my anchor ropes and any utilities, stuff like that, and we'll have that. So that's going to take a little bit more fabbing up to do. This is the electrical part. We'll come back to that later on. So we'll keep at it. I'm going to get these wires pulled and try to regroup and remember what I was getting to try to get done here. And we still have to cut our speaker hole for over there. Hey guys, I got Skylar out here helping me a little bit before you guys go to bed. But I gave him a little project to do, and check out what he made for me. We have got battery trays. We rivet them together. We're just using some of the extra 3/4 inch angle, and that'll keep the batteries in place. We're going to use some double-sided Gorilla tape to hold the battery trays down, and that will keep our batteries from moving around in the boat.
We got one for each battery.
Yep. Because that's one thing I think I forgot to mention. So we already had our trolling motor battery, but check out what came in. We got our big house battery. That's our big lithium smart battery. And then we got our starting cranking battery for the outboard. So we're gonna get those placed in the boat tonight. Then I gotta get Skylar in so he can sleep for work tomorrow, and then I'm gonna continue to work and just try to button up some more of the electrical. I've got everything ran. I do have to do one of my light circuits a little different because I thought it was a 2-strand, and I opened it, thank goodness I did, and checked it. So I gotta figure out how I'm gonna run that one still and where I'm gonna start the wires from. We have all of our wires roughed in. We'll get our batteries in place in the back, and then that way we can pull all of our excess wires and start hanging them up on the bench, and that way whatever's excess we can try to maybe leave a little bit of extra, because like I said guys, we don't have a lot of room in this side console and it's getting taken up fast. Right now I have some JB Weld on the bus bar holders, but the circuit's on, so that's good, or the fuse block I should say. And I'll go through the switches. I'll explain the switches and the different terminals and what wires you want to keep for what application you want. And then once we get the JB Weld cured tomorrow, we can start wiring, I believe, as long as I get the batteries mounted and get the wiring hung where I need it to, which I don't think I'm going to get at that far tonight. I'll get the batteries in, and then because I have to clean the boat before I do my wire holders, and then we'll run our wire holders all the way across and then clean the boat up really good for the wiring so that everything sticks right. So we'll see how far I make it tonight. I only plan on staying out here till about midnight, but Skylar's got to go in here in a little bit. He's going to help me get these batteries in place, and then he's got to go and get ready for bed. So getting there. We are on Saturday morning. We did a little bit of work off camera last night, going pretty late. We're working on the house battery area right now, and we had to modify the battery tray just a bit. Basically we extended it so that we can rivet into the back of the side, or the back side of this bench, and that helps it hold in place. And then we've also got Gorilla tape on the bottom to work as a padding and for sticking. But we got, it's gonna be really hard for you guys to see in here. That's part of the reason why I didn't video it all, and I can explain it all. We got our circuit breaker mounted, and we've got our battery shut-off switch mounted. We haven't cleaned up the wires yet because we're still going to be pulling some of the slack out, and then we'll do some wire hangers up here to be able to tidy up these wires. But the reason there's so many wires back here, you guys, is because on my build I wanted to run the bait tank and the GoPro plugins to a constant power, and when I mean constant, we're gonna have the negatives going to the negative battery terminal, and then the positives, since we're not running it through the fuse block on both those circuits, we have to add in inline fuses, which you'll see here. Just get weatherproof inline fuses and make sure they're fairly close, like within a foot of the battery, and use the correct fuse for the amount of amp draw of the length of wire and the devices that you're using. So we went ahead and got the bait tank wires done and the GoPro plugins done. We've got the battery connectors done. When you guys, if you do choose to run anything straight to your battery, never hook the positive to the battery. Always run it through the outgoing bolt stud of the circuit breaker, and then the negatives go straight to the battery negative. So that way you're still on the circuit breaker. If you do have any issues, your circuit breaker's there to stop anything before catastrophe happens. So definitely make sure that's the way you're doing it. But we're gonna go pick Skylar up from work, and I've got one more thing I have to get from the store for electrical parts. I ended up not having the spade connectors I needed for the 10 gauge wire for the GoPros to go on the back of the GoPro plugins. So we're gonna go ahead and go get those, and we can finish that up, clean up the wiring, and then we can go ahead and set the battery in. And I'll tell you what, guys, that battery, I knew it was gonna be a tight fit. Man, is it a tight fit. Like, you have to put it in at an angle, and it is hard getting it in and out, but once that sucker's in, we'll be good. So we'll be back at it here after a bit, in a couple hours, and see how far we can get and finish up. But I better get going before I'm late to get Skylar. All right, we got a little bit further. We're just kind of jumping around, doing a little bit of everything. I cleaned up the inside of the boat just a little bit, got a little bit of the garbage out because I'm going to be having to get inside here after a bit. And yeah, but we got our USB plugs mounted and wired. There's one in that back corner too, because usually I run my camera either back there or up here. We got the front speakers mounted. Still haven't cut the speaker hole for the other one, because the way that I use this one, I cut that hole out that the USB plug is in, so I'm gonna have to move the USB plug. So I gotta try and measure that out, and I want to match it perfectly over there if I can, or as close as to perfect as possible. We have not started wiring the trolling motor yet, but next I'm trying to do the bilge pumps, and we are gonna have a dual bilge pump assembly. Like, we have two bilge pumps already installed on the boat, but what I mean by dual function is what I should say. So we are going to set up a float switch. So I added just a little piece of angle iron here, or angle aluminum, to the battery tray for the starting battery, and I'm actually going to mount the battery tray straight to the back of this bench with rivets. So that'll hold that battery in place, plenty of room to get it into the smaller battery. And then we're going to wire our bilge pump float switch to the starting battery with a fuse. You gotta make sure it's with a fuse. But what that'll do is we'll have an automatic function. If there's more than 2 inches of water in the back of the boat, it'll kick on the bilge pumps automatically. And then we'll just run a second set of wires from the bilge pumps up to the switch, and then we have a manual switch to run the bilge pumps as well. So we're gonna go ahead and get this battery tray mounted in there, then we're ready to mount the starting battery. I'm not ready to go through all the motor wiring yet, because I got to take off the lower cover off the handle, and we're gonna run that trim switch, or the tilt switch up, and I can't say tilt, trim, my goodness, the jack plate switch. We will run the jack plate switch up and through the handle so that we don't have exposed wires running around, and then we'll adjust the motor wiring and get to the starting battery and conceal it as much as possible. So bilge pumps next. We still haven't gotten to the back lights yet. I actually have to pull the boat out a little bit to be able to get to the back of the boat. So we will get that done here shortly as well. But Right now we're gonna work on the bilge pumps, and then I gotta take Amy to her prom, my daughter, in about an hour. So got a little over an hour that we can get these wired up and ready. Let's get after it. All right, so we are getting the bilge pumps wired up, and I've been kind of brainstorming on how I want to do this. From what I've looked up, if you have the automatic float switch to one battery and you connect your switch circuit from your switch panel into the line of the automatic switch, which we still have to run a ground up to the switch panel, so you have to remember that, and then a positive back. But if we hook up the manual switch from the switch panel power in between the float switch power cord and the bilge pump power cord. So now I have two bilge pumps because the way that my tunnel hole drains on both sides. So my plan is I'm going to jump from one bilge pump to the other, double wire off of that, and then one single positive wire connecting into the float. And then I'll take and I'll come in and I'll cut somewhere where it's going to make sense underneath where the battery is, and I'll cut and re-splice in a third wire that we can run up to the switch panel with. And that way the manual switch is after, it's in between the float switch and the bilge pumps, so it'll power the bilge pumps only. My only concern was, is does that hurt anything being two circuits on the same circuit, basically, because it's going to provide power. But from my thoughts with the float switch, it acts as a manual switch that only comes on when the water raises. So as long as there's no extra power going through, now when the auto is on, that's a possibility, but if the auto is already on and the bilge pumps are running, I'm not going to hit my manual switch because it's going to be pumping water out. So that was my thinking. There really wasn't a lot of info out there between the internet and everything else, but that was my thinking on it, and we're going with it. So just getting the connections all ready. I'm gonna get them ran back to the starting battery, and we're not quite ready yet to hook everything up to the starting battery. I still have to go through all the motor wiring and everything, but one more thing done and ready to go. Once we get all the wires ran, like everything's roughed in right now, but once I get everything connected to all the different accessories, I'm going to be able to pull all the slack out and tighten them up, and use all my wire ties. It's a zip tie saddle, I think is what they call them. And I'll go through and I'll clean up all my wiring through the benches. I'll do it all one time, and that'll really help with making this a really clean install. So gonna get these bilge pumps wired up, and that'll be one more thing. See how much I can work on this tonight. Pretty tired. I did not get much sleep last night, but trying to plug away at this as much as possible because crunch time's coming, you guys. I want to get out there and chase some crappies. Pretty simple though. Two wires into one using the butt splice connectors. And I'll tell you what, guys, invest in a heat gun. They're really inexpensive and definitely worth it. And you know what I forgot? No, I didn't. Heat shrink tubing. Definitely always make sure you use that too. Just one extra safety on it. So when I'm doing these butt splices, I like to just hold the heat in the center on that solder and wait until that solder melts. Sometimes you can't get too close to it, otherwise it will burn some of it and put a hole in it, so you don't want to do that. There are times where I'll use the regular crimping butt splices as well, but I really do like these solder seals because they hold up really well. I've had good success with them. And I also twist my wires together, fold them over like a 90 degree, and then twist them together, so it makes a really, really secure bond. I like to let it cool off a little bit before I run the heat shrink over it, otherwise you start melting that heat shrink. Usually when I mean you're doing a positive and negative, so usually when I'm letting one cool, I'll start working on the other, and by the time that one's done, this one's cooled and ready to finish out, go back to the other, finish that one out with a heat shrink. Really simple, you guys. Get you some handy dandy self strippers or auto strippers. And when I'm doing these solder seals, I do a pretty good length actually. I want enough to be able to wrap those wires around each other quite a bit. So this is going to be one of my 2 wire sides. So I just twist both the wires together. Sometimes when you're doing this, whatever wire size you're using, you might have to use a bigger crimp. And before I put that on there, we'll get some more heat shrink. And that will go on the single wire. And then the butt splice. Run it over the open portion of the wire. Let it sit down towards the bottom. And then now on these, since I'm running 3 wires together, I'm not folding these in half. I'm just giving them a extremely tight twist, you guys. Like really get those wires locked into each other. Bring your butt splice over, and I just twist the butt splice in, and that usually keeps anything from moving. And we are ready to hit it with a heat gun. Pretty cold out, so it's taking a while for the solder to actually melt. And don't check your connections right off the bat, because before it cools off, you'll be able to rip those wires right apart through the solder. But once it cools off, you guys, it's a really solid connection. Okay, so now we'll let that one cool, but guess what? Go back to the other one, and that one will be ready for us. I use a pretty good section of heat shrink, because it works as almost like a harness, you guys. And it really helps protect those wires, keeps anything from bending and breaking, and keeps water out of it. Alright. Usually I start at one end and then work it across. Hit it until you see the glue come out the end. That's what it tells you that you have a seal when you have the adhesive heat shrink. Which is, if you don't, you might want to get some. Usually Amazon's pretty cheap and it goes a long way, you guys. So we'll let that one cool while that one's cooling. This one is now cooled off. We can jump over to it. Don't get your fingers too close. Now we have two great connections. Looks like I might need to tighten up the positive a little bit. Okay. Now our bilge pump's ready to place in the holder. And then now we have a really nice set of wires we can zip tie together, keep everything together, and then be able to hide it up in. We have a lip underneath here and under the gas tank plate, and that's where we're going to hide everything. So far everything's been doing really good with being able to conceal all of our wires. Everything is looking great. I'm hoping to be able to start wiring the switch panel up by tomorrow. Granted, I have a lot of stuff going on tomorrow, but we're gonna try. Alright, so as you can see, we just got a length of wire coming across. And now, let's see if I can get out the light here. Bilge pump, jumped from the first bilge pump over to the second. We're heading that way because we're connecting to the starting battery in that corner. Now we're going to wrap these wires around the back, come through, and we'll hook our positive up to the float switch wire and the negative up to the battery cable. And then somewhere in between is where we're going to cut and run our leads back up to our switch panel. So pretty simple, you guys. I've been doing that with pretty much all the different accessories. The only thing different would be like the speakers and the USB plug-ins. Those have spade connectors on the back, so not as much for butt splices, but still super simple, just time consuming. Make sure you got the right pieces and parts that you need. Make sure good practices is, you know, different battery size studs that your lugs that your terminals go onto. Make sure you have the terminals for the correct wire sizes and the correct batteries and terminals that you have. That'll save you a lot of time. All right, we're gonna hop out of the boat, get it over here in the corner, finish this up. All right, guys, another late night on the boat, but to catch you up, we got all 4 speakers mounted. This one we're gonna still have to take back out, but I have it, you know, just screws, so because we'll have to be able to access back in this corner for the wire ties to organize the wiring. I've got all the wiring done to the navigation lights and the front lights. I pulled off the old mount, the ram bar mount and the light mount, and I wire wheeled it so I can repaint it because we never got to it that last year and it started rusting, so I didn't like that. So those are getting painted right now, so they will be ready to go back on. The lights will get mounted. Right now we are working on our dual bank charger. So I want to mount it on the front side of this bench on the inside, so it's concealed. We're going to run bolts through it. The bolts will hold it nice and tight. I've got to make sure I have enough room above and below the bottom side on the bolt where it comes through. I need to make sure it's above the floor level, and I need to make sure I have enough room to still be able to conceal all the wires and organize them with the wire ties. So we're just going to drill through the back of the bench, or the front of the bench, and we're going to bolt it on, stainless steel bolts, And then I've got a really fancy flush mount plug for it, so that we don't have to run the cord out anywhere. We just plug an extension cord right into it. It's gonna be waterproof. Gonna be awesome. But this is what I'm looking at here. Try to get you in here. So we're just gonna mount it. Here's our, it's gonna be really dark, but there's our speaker. We're gonna mount the onboard battery charger right there. When the hatch bin goes in, it's got plenty of room to clear. And yeah, we're making some progress, you guys. Still going a little slower than I'd hoped, but there's a lot of stuff going in this boat. Things that are still left to do. I have not done the rear lights yet, probably because I have to cut into the transom and also pull the boat out far enough that I can get behind the boat. And I still have to sort out the motor wiring. On this onboard charger, one of the leads is going to be long enough to get to our house battery, but since we're going to be charging our trolling motor battery with this as well, we're going to actually have to pop these terminals off on one side, and we will extend it with 10 gauge wire all the way up to the trolling motor battery from here, so that way we can charge all the way up there as well. Hopefully by the time I decide to call it quits tonight, we're going to be really close to be able to start wiring up the console. Then I'll just leave that for probably a weekday or something maybe. And I still have to put interior and exterior lights on, but I'm trying to wait for warmer weather. We got warmer weather coming in a couple days. Hopefully that the sticky tape on the back of it will stick better with the warm. I didn't try it yet, but when it's this cold, I really don't want to mess it up and then try to figure out how I can get those to stay on the boat. So as soon as that warms up, we already get the wiring ran up there, we can get it to the switch, and then all we have to do is once we get a warmer day, go ahead and mount those lights up. And then we got to get a little creative with the interior light, because it ended up being a 1-strand. I thought it was a 2-strand, I guess, for some reason, and I didn't see a 2-strander on the same brand that I got. So we're gonna try to figure out how to run a 1-strand all the way around the inside of this boat, because LED strip lighting does not like corners, bends, anything like that. So definitely gonna have to get creative with that one as well. But let's get to it. I'm gonna get this charger mounted one step at a time, you guys. I just keep plugging away as much as possible. This is a lot, but we're getting there. Got all the bilge pump wiring done. It's all good. I started containing the wires over there in the compartment. So, and then after I get this mounted, I will probably work on containing the wires in the house battery compartment as well. And then we're saving the trolling motor battery and the wiring for later. That'll be easy to get to and done easily. So we're just working on the boat wiring at the moment. Alright, so here's the waterproof connector I was talking about. So let's put the gasket on the right way. We already drilled our hole, and just a really simple plug. It's got the extension cord plug on the backside, so we can be able to plug in our battery charger, and then just have this as a waterproof flush mount plug-in. Just plug your extension cord in. You don't have to have the cord going through anything. Works perfect, you guys. So we're gonna go ahead and get this mounted now. It's gonna make for a really clean looking boat, hopefully. Definitely a lot of plugs though. Oh yeah, check this out. So I'm just putting it right by my USB plug and flip it up, plug it in, good to go. Charging batteries. Alright, let's get this mounted. Alright guys, we're getting started on organizing the wires. I did end up with a lot more wires in the battery compartment that I planned on, and as well as inside the bench. So we got a lot of organizing to do. I'm somewhat happy with the battery compartment one though. I've got light in there so I can show you guys, hopefully. But we got most of our main power cable wires are all tied together. I've got them all marked at the terminals for positive and negative. And then we got our circuit board. Got one extra negative here that we had to run over, but kind of just simple. We're just organizing it. I have access to that space that's on the front of the battery tray, the second little attachment. I have space to be able to access these fuses so that I can change out the fuses if need be. And I'm gonna vacuum this out. We're ready to set the house battery in. Got the kill switch off just so there's no power going to anything, and then we can start hooking up all of our terminals, and this section will be done and we'll move on to the next one. Got to make it look nice and tidy. As we got it in, wired up, check it out. When I said there wasn't much room, there's really not much room. Got about 4 fingers across the top. We're sitting down in the battery tray. I got all the wires hooked up and I plugged in the charger. And here's what's really cool about this battery, guys. Not only is it self-heating, but since it's a smart battery, you can jump on the Lithium app and check this out right here. I already downloaded or got into the battery, and we're at a 50% charge. It is currently charging right now, plus sign. We're not using any amps at the moment, but when we get our electrical running, we can tell how much amperage we're using, and it'll also tell us how long this battery will last at that amperage. So at the moment we have 160 amp hours of power because we're at 50%. Everything's running. It'll tell us when the self heat's on. It's 11 degrees. I mean, there's Celsius. There are so much stuff. I mean, being a smart battery, this is going to be pretty cool. I do have a voltmeter that's going to be on the console, so I mean, I can watch the volts on that as well. But if we kill this battery, you guys, it must have been a really good weekend. So, alright, we're ready to put the hatch back on this battery cover. And I can go ahead and start organizing all the wires under the bench now. We're getting somewhere. I feel good about this. I can't wait for this, you guys. This is going to be so awesome to be done. Whew. Alright. We'll keep plugging away. Guys, we are about to call it quits for the night. It's getting late. The kids are about to wake up for school. But I feel like I got a lot accomplished, though. I'm really happy with the work that I did over here. I've got this bench area done at the moment. And the only thing in hindsight, I kind of wish either I would have used just regular insulated wires on some of this wiring, or, you know, not the duplex wiring with the extra coating on it. I didn't really want to run any wires through the floor, but unfortunately, to run the gauge of wire that I needed for the 24 volt trolling motor battery charging cables, I ended up having to run them down here along the side, and they're going to go up and underneath the bench. So not a main waterway, it's a little bit more higher up level. It is all insulated wire. I also put a wire loom on it, so that way, since it's going through all the ribs, there's no rubbing or chafing. So not quite happy with that one. I mean, the only way that I could have made this any better, to be honest, is if I would have done like a rod box or gun box down the side of the boat, and I could have ran all my wiring to the front through that and had plenty of room. But I don't want to lose floor space. Like, everything I'm trying to do is to gain floor space right now. So let's go ahead and look at the work that I've already done. So we already got the battery compartment done. I showed you guys that, and most of this is done. We still have to run the rest of the wires across the bench, but it's only 2 wires. So we've got our onboard charger. Our main power cables are coming through. We're actually going to be running those through underneath the floor because they're so big. We went with 6 gauge for all the power that we have. For the moment, I just got the power cord just velcroed. I haven't quite decided, just in case I have to move anything, but it's going to stay there pretty much. But check this out. Zip ties are your friend, you guys. And then that Gorilla tape. So this is the saddle cable thing that I was using, and then I just use some of the double sticky Gorilla Tape. Clean the surface that you're sticking it to, let it dry, and man, that thing sticks. There's only a couple of spots where I had to strengthen it. Like if you have heavier gauge wires, use more zip ties and more secure points. And then if you have an option to, you can also run rivets through these. So I riveted on the major bends. That way it can hold those wires, doesn't pop that Gorilla Tape loose over time, just possibly. So really happy overall with how this corner turned out. So we're getting even closer, you guys, to starting to wire up our console. I've got 2 wires left to run across the bench, and then on our next nice day we're probably going to pull the boat out into the driveway and we'll go ahead and cut these back lights in. The next time we're out here we'll probably work on the trolling motor wiring as well. That one's going to be super simple and easy to do. Got pretty far, thankfully. I was wanting to be done with the electrical by now, but I didn't really get a chance to work on it much this weekend at all. So I put in a pretty long night tonight to get a lot done, but extremely happy with how this turned out, you guys. So hopefully you're enjoying the build so far. Probably gonna be a longer video, unfortunately, but you know, I'm really enjoying this and I hope you guys are too. I can't wait to get this boat done and on the water, you guys. So I'm gonna head in, get some sleep. I gotta wake up a little bit early before work today to get some stuff done, and we'll see if we can work on the boat after work one of these days this week. So all right, I will see you guys next time we're out here. All right, guys, so we're working on the boat for a little bit this morning after work, and what I'm trying to get done, it's gonna be a warmer day, so I really want to get those exterior lights on if I can. The interior lights, I haven't quite decided how I'm doing them yet, but I might tackle them today, we'll see. But first things first, so all these Scotty mount rod holders that we had on the boat, the bolts that were in weren't flush with the outside of the boat, and so I pulled all the old bolts out and I bought tapered head bolts, and then I countersunk all the holes, so now we're flush with the boat all the way up the rail. And this rail right here where the bolts are is where the light strip's gonna go. So we just flipped the bolts around, nuts went on the inside of the rod mount and tightened back down. Everything worked great. So now what we're gonna do, get you a good cleaner, same cleaner I'm using to clean the boat to get all the Gorilla Tape stuck to it, and we're going to go around everywhere that light strip is going to be, and we are going to clean it and let it dry. So while we're doing that, we'll get it drying, we'll pull the lights out and see what we can do. I have a few ideas. Not a lot of people have put videos out there. They show the finished product, or they might show kind of how they put on the lights, but on the exterior lights you don't really want to just run your wire up and over the rail here. So I think we are going to insert the wire through somewhere on the boat. Ideally we might do right here up on the front corner. I haven't quite decided yet, but we're going to go through. And there's a few different options that you can use that I notice, but I don't like the size of them. So what I'm looking at doing is if it's thin enough I can use a grommet, I will put the wire through a grommet. And the hard part with those lights, you guys, and so you're gonna have to be real careful, but I'm gonna strip away the outside insulation on these lights, because the way that they come, they have a big plug on the end of them. So you have a wire coming off the strip light and it comes to a plug about a 1/2 inch thick. So you either need to make a 1/2 inch hole, or if we have 2 insulated wires inside this coating, we can split those wires, get the wires through the hole and butt splice them so that they're back to a waterproof connection, and we'll test the lights, make sure they work. Hopefully we didn't ruin them, and that'll give it so we can make a really small hole to go through the bolt hole, because I kind of did the same thing here. So these lights actually had a wire, these are the front navigation lights, they actually had a wire that was going through behind the light mount. So all I did was some Marine 5200 sealant, drilled a hole, ran the wire through, and I sealed it really good and placed that light up against it so it seals it even more. And we're through the hole and there's no exposed wires. Now on these strip lights, the way that they're built, there is going to be an exposed wire right on the edge because that's how they're built. There's not a wire going through the back of them. So I think, because I kind of wanted to wrap them around out front, but I think what we're going to end up having to do is stop somewhere up here in the corner and run a hole through. And that's where our lights are going to go through. So let me get the boat cleaned up on the stretch where the lights are going to go. And while it's drying, we'll work on the wires and see what we can do with that. We'll just carefully strip away the outside coating. If there's 2 wires inside of it, then we can get this done. If there isn't, we'll have to go back to the drawing board, probably make a bigger hole and get that plug through there. Yeah, and I think with the way that you got the extra metal here on that lip, I think that's gonna be too big for a grommet. Because I ran into that on my 1/4-inch plate up here for my wires going through for my front lights. So I'm gonna have to makeshift something to work and then 5200 seal it so that no water can get down in there, hopefully. I'm gonna get to cleaning and then we'll brainstorm a little bit. Okay, so we are gonna have to put the lights on hold, unfortunately, because, all right, do not cut into your lights. If you look, since they're red, green, blue lights, we have a 4-wire configuration in here and they are extremely tiny. Now, in all reality, I could use, I think I have some waterproof butt splices that are that small. Teeny tiny here. We could probably get away with that, but just by chance, I don't want to screw it up because those sets of lights are like 40 to 60 bucks depending on which ones you get. And so I jumped on Amazon real quick. And here's what you guys can get. So the reason that I'm having to do that, I cannot wrap these lights all the way to the front of the boat. These plug-ins have to be close enough to the controller, and that is as much stretch as we get out of the controller unit. So we would have to bring the lights almost all the way to the nose of the boat. And one, I have this skid plate in the way, and the way that it's mounted, if I try to cut it off, I'm probably gonna be almost cutting into the boat, so I don't want to chance that. So if you look, since we have these 4-pin connectors, jump on Amazon, and all I had to look up was Tendist is the brand of both my strip lights. So I looked up Tendist strip light extension. I know that's probably hard to see, but they actually have a 9-foot extension for RGB strip lights, 4-pin, 4-wire. So we can go ahead and get that and go back to our original plan where we'll stop the lights right here on the corner, and then we can use the extension to reach across from one side to the other. So that will work. We have to wait till tomorrow to get it though. So that gives us some time. We'll test the light strip with the extension cord before we install anything, just to make sure. Always good to test. So I guess we're waiting until then. I'm not gonna mount the lights until for sure I know they're gonna work. I might be ready to go and go to bed. It's about 9:30. Gives me enough time to get some sleep. I could get a few other things done, but I've got plenty of time. I've got a few mornings this week I'm gonna be out here working on the boat, and this weekend in the evenings I'll be working on it. So gives us time to try to figure out what we're gonna do and how we're gonna do it. So hopefully the next time you guys see me, I will be out here putting light strips on, and we'll go through the rest of that process. So we are back at it with boat wiring. We are installing one of our last accessories, which is going to be the rear lights. Kind of nerve-wracking because you're cutting into the transom to do it, but I have an all aluminum transom. You might have to check and see what you have. If you have wood, just count for that. Put it in a structural spot where you're not going to compromise the integrity of the boat. So on my transom, you can see where this box end piece here is. This is double walled. Behind this plate there's this open section, and it's just a single layer of aluminum back here in this area. So I have used the template for the lights, and I marked out my outline, and the light actually has a flange that fits more over this hole, so we'll have plenty of room to seal this with 5200 sealant. And I went ahead, and easiest way to do this, you guys, you have your marks. When I put this template up there, marked on the inside of it, so we need to cut to the outside of the lines. Take a drill bit, and the easiest way that you can do is, say you have a 1/2 inch drill bit, you take and you measure in from the outside of the corner a 1/4 inch, because it's going to be half the diameter of the drill bit, and then that way you can get as close as possible to the outside line without going over. Granted, you're going to have a little bit of wiggle room because of the flange on the light, and it will cover up the hole, but you definitely want to be safe and get this as tight as possible so that you don't hurt your boat. So we're going to go ahead and cut these straight lines out and then test fit the light. And where it's going in, I'm going to be able to hide my wires back behind that wall. So this is going to work out pretty good. We're almost done. Before I get started on cutting those holes out, I did work on the console yesterday after work, but man, guys, I was so tired. I was just trying to get it done because I'm trying to get this project moving, and trying to explain the switch panel wiring while I was doing it was going to be impossible for me. So an easy way for me to explain it, and we did run into a problem. It was the problem I suspected, but there is way too much wiring for such a little console. Like if I would have done a custom console, I would have had more room, but we're making it work. You gotta make the wires easily accessible. So we still have the speaker wires and the memory wires to wire up for the radio, but if you look, if I can explain what I did here, because this might not be the same as everybody else's. I kind of did a little different than most people. Yeah, let me get this where I can show you. So with mine, I added bus bars, a negative and positive bus bar. And the reason why I did that was because there's a few of the electronics that I don't need switches for. Like, you don't have to run switches to everything that's on your boat. Like my radio, I don't want a switch. I want it to come on, like there's a power button. Same thing with my fish finder. So when I turn on the battery kill switch, power will start going to the radio, the fish finder. My live scope is hooked up to the bus bars. My top plugs, so my 12-volt charger, my USB charger, and the voltmeter are all on the bus bar, so those all come on when the battery switch is engaged. I can't remember. I think I had one more on here, but I can't remember what it was now. So what I do with the bus bars is you have your positive and negative lugs coming on your fuse block that are coming from the battery. So I had tied in a positive and negative into the bus bar from the fuse block lugs. So that way when power comes on, you have power to the fuse block on both ends. So not only does it provide power to the fuse block, it will run power to these bus bars. Now every electronic that you run off of these bus bars is going to need a fused inline fuse off of the positive bus bar. So it is providing power from this bus bar, and all the fuses should be as close as possible, you know, within a foot. So I did my fuses within 6 inches of the positive bus bar where it's going to distribute all that power. The only thing that's going to draw a decent amount of power is going to be the live scope, and it'll draw, they say, 7.5 amps on the fuse, so give or take 10 amps. And the radio pulls, I think it said 3 to 5 amps. The voltmeter and the chargers are about the same, 1 to 3 amps. The bus bar that I got, and most of them are going to be a pretty high capacity bus bar, you guys. The bus bar I got will handle up to 300 amps. So plenty safe there. Make sure you got all good connections. So explaining that, that is why I went with bus bars. Now, not everybody's going to do that. You can, I mean, there's no problem with wiring your radio and everything else to the switches. I didn't see a need for it, so that's why I went this route. And pretty much everything I have is going to be running in every switch. I have 6 switches. I don't want to put any more than that in, so I ran out of room of switches as well, but I already planned on doing the bus bars before I knew that. So now, to explain the switch panel, let's see if I can do it without butchering it. The way that the switch panel comes wired up, they have daisy chains all the way across the switches. So like all these blue wires here, that is all the power switches or power lines for that little teeny tiny courtesy light that's at the bottom of the switch. And then all these lugs to the right of that are all the positive lugs that go to your accessory. So that's why those are open right now, because I haven't started wiring up any of my accessories. I have all the rough-in wires over there and ready to go. Everything's labeled, so it's going to be pretty easy to put all those together. So now let me see if I can get this. Sorry, I got the fish finder on here right now. So right now this switch panel is upside down. So if you look, all these black and yellow daisy chains here, that is all of your negatives that are going to the switch. They all stay in the same line on the top of the switch straight across. So I have, let me see if I remember right, I have all the negatives from between the top voltmeter and the chargers, and the negatives from the switches. They're on separate lines, so you connect the black and the yellow for negative, and I ran that to the negative bus bar. So when I turn on power to the battery switch, I make a connection to the switches. So the negatives of the switches, which is the black and yellow wires that come with it, I kept those, reused them. Those are all going to one strand, and it connects into my negative bus bar. So I get a connection through my bus bar through the fuse block to connect the negatives to the switches. Now the negative and positive on the 12 volt meter, the chargers on the top. The positives, I tied in the courtesy light from the top, the switch here, the blue wire. I tied that into my positive of my chargers. So I reused the daisy chain from the top chargers, and I've got the blue daisy chain for the courtesy lights. Those are wired in together. Those have a fused, inline fuse on them, and you want to make sure you do the math. So whatever a cigarette 12 volt charger will pull, and your voltmeter, which won't pull very much, and then you've also got your USB charger. So you do the math, find the amps that it's going to use. The courtesy lights aren't going to use hardly any amps at all, little LED lights. So I put an inline fuse on that according to the amp rating that I needed. Now the positives coming off of the chargers and the courtesy light are tied into the inline fuse and then tied into the positive bus bar. So once again, battery switch comes on, power goes to the switch panel. So now from there, I have 2 rather big wires. I end up going 6 gauge. I could have gotten away with 8 gauge, but I actually ran out of 8 gauge at the moment, and I didn't want to wait for them to show up. So we have a positive connection from the bus bar positive up to the positive lug on the fuse block. Same thing as the negative. We have a negative lead that goes to the negative stud of the fuse block. So now that gives us power from the fuse block to the bus bars. Now the fuse block, you have a fuse for each switch, and as you see, these are all positive wires coming off of the sides of the fuses. What this is this is saying, hey, send power through this fuse down this line, and it's going to each middle spade on the switch. So those middle spades are what connects your circuit to your fuse for each accessory that you're trying to power. All right, sorry, we got a phone call. So I believe where I left off here is you've got power coming through the fuse block. So the fuse is your first distribution of power. So that's what's going to save your circuit if there's something that, you know, you get a short circuit or overpowering in the wire. It will blow the fuse before you burn up a wire and cause a fire. So power comes through the fuse, hits the wires here, and each wire is going to each accessory switch. So we come across and we have them all tied together, all nice and clean here. And the middle spades, let me see if I can see, the middle spades on the switches, you guys, you have 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom, and then 1 in the middle. This is a 5-pin switch. It's almost pretty common with all these nylite switch panels. The middle spade is the one that's going to run to the fuse block. So each switch that you want, and I know which, I had already planned on where I was putting each switch and for what accessory, you run back to the fuse block and connect it with each according space. And then you put the by doing your amp measures, you know, check your amps on what device you're running, and you put the corresponding fuse in for that circuit. And then at that time you can take and label all your circuits here. So got all these labeled, and I will get the switch labels. I want to get some new ones that will cover more of what I have and explain it better, so that it's not just generic stickers. So that covers all of the fuse block leads to the switches. Now the open spades, they're all on the tops of these, or you know, right now the top, this is actually the bottom, they're all next to the courtesy light pigtails. This is the spade that you will run your wires that are coming from your accessory. So say my front light, I have a positive and negative inside that. The positive from that light will connect to this open spade right here, and the negative from that light comes back and connects to this negative bus bar, which is all these little screws right here on the fuse block. So that's what creates the circuit. So when you turn on the switch, power is coming through the fuse block into the switch, through the switch to the accessory, back from the accessory through the negative. So to the accessory through the positive, back through the accessory through the negative. Negative goes all the way back to the negative bus bar, and it completes the circuit. So I find it the easiest way to wire up these switch panels is this way, like I did. All my wires are roughed into the area that I'm going to put my console. So I was able to get all of my fuse block wires connected. Make sure you label, I mean, this is where it gets you. You want to label your rough end wires so you know what you have. And you want to make sure you label your fuse blocks so you know what you're powering into which switch. And then same thing with the outside of your switches. Get your stickers on, or know which switch is for what accessory. So now all we have to do is we go over and we start stripping our rough end wires on the end, and I'm going to cut them to length where they're going to fit as much as possible. I mean, as you guys can see, there's some wires in this thing, you guys. I also got my Garmin set up, and I put my sonar wire through, and I also put my Garmin power wire through, which is also on an inline fuse to the positive and negative fuse block. Bus bar, sorry. The positive negative bus bar. So now when I go over here, I'm going to give myself enough room on those wires, on those rough end wires. I'll cut them into where I can take this console off and have enough room to set it aside somewhere. That way all I have to do is remove the negative bus bar wires from the accessories, and I can pull the positive wires from the spades here, and I'm able to remove this console for whatever purpose needed, just in case. Because I mean, it's not a problem being permanently set up, but in case you ever have to work on something, or if you have to get in here and get to the fuses, because all my fuses I actually tucked in underneath my fuse block positive wires. So they're all tucked in kind of nice, but still accessible. The radio wires, the speakers, I'm actually putting a 2-pin connector on them, a waterproof connector. It'll take up a little bit more space, but anytime that I have to take the console off, I don't have to sit there and cut wires and re-splice. So that's a pretty good idea. Other than that, I did a grommet where I put so I have a rubber grommet right here where I put the sonar wires through. You got to protect any wires that are going through a metal surface. The 2-pin speaker wires are supposed to be, connectors are supposed to be here later today, so hopefully by the end of today, we're going to have this console on and working, which would be pretty cool. And that'll pretty much almost complete our electrical wiring of this boat, you guys. Like, the only thing I really have left after this would be, I still have to run the wires for the outboard motor and the jack plate and get them through behind the transom and to the starting battery. The strip lights are going on the inside and outside the boat, but I'm waiting to do that. And we're not going to reveal why just yet. We'll get this wiring segment done and we'll come back to the lights on a different day. Believe me, it's worth it. I'm gonna go ahead, get started on these lights so I can get them mounted. I mean, we're sitting pretty good, you guys. I've got a full day to get this done. I got all of tomorrow, and my buddy dropped off my aluminum pieces for the floor. So I'll be heading to Menards to go get my pink styrofoam here pretty quick so that I can start laying out the styrofoam and the subframe. It's coming together. It's coming together. I've still got like 3 more weeks before Memorial Day, and we have a big trip planned on Memorial Day. We're no longer going to the Mississippi, but we're going to stay local here, and we're going to do a big riverette rendezvous. I think it's going to end up being 4 days: Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, leaving Monday. So basically 4 full days of on the river catfishing with hopefully a lot of guys. So it'd be pretty cool. But let's get to cutting and we'll get those lights fitted. All right, so we got our first hole cut. They probably offer a shorter metal jigsaw blade, but that's what I ended up having to use. Super easy to follow it and get mostly straight lines. I have to come through. I'm going to use a hand file and remove a little bit of material so that light can fit, because it was too tight to fit in right now. But I can see down here on the bottom edge, I need to take off a little material, and I need to take off a little material right here on this side, and maybe right here. So we'll go ahead and get that removed, test fit the light, and then we will be good. I made sure I had enough room behind this aluminum so that I wasn't going to hit anything. That was part of the reason why I had to cut that jigsaw blade down, because it would have hit this back wall here. So be mindful of where you're cutting, what you're cutting, and measure, measure, measure. Be careful, because holes in the outside of your boat, you don't want to mess up. All right, so not even a minute of work, you guys. And this is our flush mount LED rear light, and the flange is as wide as this plastic is on top. So we have plenty of room to seal it, and it's a nice and tight fit. Like, I'm gonna have to pry it off there to get it off probably. So we'll go ahead and get our holes drilled, mounted. I'm not sealing it yet. Once again, there's a reason why I'm not doing that yet. So we'll go ahead and go to the other side, get our other light on. And just because I'm a stickler I'm an OCD, the light, depending on how you look at it, looks crooked because of the way that the boat is. But I actually lined it up level with what would be the ground, not the boat, because the pods aren't the level that the light needed it to be. And I just centered it to, really easy way to figure it out, measured from the bottom of the handle down to the light. That gave me my gap for both lights, and I centered it to the screw head on this handle. So plenty good spot there, shouldn't be in the way of anything. The only thing that, if I add anything to this rear end of this boat after this, I might run some stakeout pole holders so that I can use hand push pull or hand stakeout poles, and I can run those straight down right here beside the pods. So haven't found any yet. I don't know if I'm gonna have to make some or what I have to do. There's a few options out there, but I'm not spending $100 on each one. If I can either get it made or something, but I prefer aluminum. We'll see. I found a stainless steel version that were going to be pretty inexpensive, which stainless steel would work. No worry about rust on those, but I'm still searching for what I can do there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this other hole cut, get the other light in, and then we can work on the wiring, which is already roughed in and over here. All right, so I want to show you these 2-pin connectors that I was talking about for the radio wires. So it's just a radio or a 2-pin connector, you know, so it'll come apart. That way you don't have to permanently install your speaker wires, and when you need to undo them, if you ever have to take off the console, you're able to. So I'm just getting them butt spliced in, and then I'm using a piece of heat shrink to go over them, and then we'll go ahead and connect them with all the speaker wires down here, and we're getting closer to getting the console on the boat. But just a little tedious work, and I'm gonna have to try to figure out, I'll probably stand the console somewhere on something right here, like a bucket or something, that way it's close, have it flipped up, and then I can connect all the wires and get it all wired up and have this working by tonight. We'll be jamming out in the garage for a bit. All right, so we're working on a couple different things still before we get to the console, unfortunately. I forgot I still had 2 more wires to finish running through the bench here. I was saving that for later. And then something else that I wanted to mention, we went ahead, ooh, that's still hot. So that plug-in that I got to plug in the onboard charger, I actually switched it out and I changed it to a 2-plug. And if you check this out, it's gonna be really tight down in here. This was the best spot I had to put it, right down here. Hard to see, of course. I found a little Noco 2-amp battery charger, onboard charger, completely waterproof. Works for the AGM batteries. So that means we can plug in and one plug, and we're charging all 3 batteries at once, you guys. So that's pretty slick. I'm just extending the wires here because it was only like a 2-foot wire. But I gotta go back to this corner over here where the starting battery is. So we will have all 3 batteries charging at once, 1 extension cord. So that's pretty cool. I'm gonna go ahead and finish routing these wires over. And the one thing that I am changing about this build, and it's gonna have to happen after I put the floor in, I have decided, and I think I can get it done, there's just a couple little tight spots to get it in. I really wanted to mount stuff on the side walls, like rod holders, and then I'm gonna have stakeout poles. I want to be able to mount those too. And those ribs just kind of limit your space on how much stuff you can mount. So I'm going to attempt, if I have enough aluminum, I'm going to attempt to build a sidewall that goes from bench to bench and to the top of these ribs, and enclose it so that everything behind those ribs is enclosed. Now, if I would have known I was doing that, I would have never had to run those wires through all that PVC, because all the wires would have been hidden behind that little sidewall. So, food for thought. Should have thought about it earlier, but it is what it is. Just extra protection for the wires. But we're definitely gonna try to do that. I don't know. The only issue that I see is I don't want to go all the way to the top rail with the aluminum because rod holders are up there. So that's why I'm trying to see if I can go to the top of the ribs. And if I can get somewhat close to the sidewall, I'll be fine with that. If I really have to, I can seal it with something like silicone all the way across. That way, you know, it's watertight going down in. But that is the next thought. Just more and more to do to the boat, you guys. I can't stop. There's certain things I want to keep doing, and there's a lot still to get done. But I still have to work on the front storage as well. Right now I'm just trying to get all the wiring done back here, I'm saving the trolling motor wiring because if I do the front storage, then I need to be able to route all the wires through it and be able to access up underneath there. So I'm not installing the trolling motor battery yet. So we're gonna get these wires ran through, and by the end of this night I'm gonna have that console set up and working, you guys. That is my determination. That's my goal. I'm gonna achieve it. So we better get back to it. Whew, just letting stuff cool off for a second, but just wanted to show you guys this is how simple it is. So every accessory wire that's coming from the accessory, positive and negative, all you're doing, since you did all that prep work on your switch panel and everything else, I installed my battery lead to the fuse block stud in the negative, and then each accessory wire. So here's, let's see, I have them marked. This one is my interior lights. The positive gets a female spade connector. The negative gets a smaller ring. I think it's a ring size number 10. The negative goes to the negative bus bar over here. Positive goes to the switch on the last blade that's left. Really simple, really easy, just time consuming. Tell you what guys, if you're gonna do this much wiring on one of these little consoles, if you end up doing one of these consoles, there's not a lot of room. Not a lot of room. Like, it's gonna bother me knowing that there's a organized rat's nest underneath this console, because this stuff is just, whew, it's layers and layers of wires. I'm doing all the accessory wires just right now, and then last but not least, we throw in all of our speaker wires, and that's going to fill up the bottom of this. And I want to make sure nothing's sitting on that radio, because that could gain some heat. So don't want to burn any wires. Quite the organized mess, you guys. This is what's called organized chaos, but it's going to be cool. We're so close to getting done. We've got 2 switches done, about to have a 3rd one done. It's already 1 o'clock, so we'll see what happens. Woo. I'm coming up on 24 hours awake, you guys. But this marks my last wires. They're getting wired in the console. Oh my goodness. I can't believe I got all these in here. This is ridiculous. Definitely next time if I build a boat again, I'm going to custom console, I think. Gotta have something a little bit bigger if I'm going to do this much stuff. That or get a Bluetooth speaker and cut out a 1/3 of the wires. Just ridiculous. But once this is on and we place the console on, we can flip the battery switch on and check it out. Make sure there's no sparks or flames or anything like that. It's gonna be so nice having all these plug-ins on the speaker wires, because if we happen to have to take this console off for any reason, all we have to do is start unplugging the speaker wires instead of cutting wires. So that's gonna be pretty nice. Last one. I am getting mighty tired. Not gonna get as far as I wanted to tonight, but at least we accomplished the console. I really wanted to start getting the boat ready to go take it to a power wash tomorrow, but I'm probably gonna have to do that tomorrow now. But I got quite a bit of work to do. Alright. That is it. We're gonna use a couple some zip ties to organize these speaker wires and the radio wires, and then we're gonna get this console flipped and in place. My goodness, what in the world possessed me to want to do all this to my boat? And I'm not even close to done, you guys. Not even close. There's still so much more. I'm not going to get to the trolling motor wiring at this point. I'm hoping when we're done with this thing, you guys, we're going to have more than enough space to walk around this boat and have plenty of space to do anything. Like, the only thing that should be on the boat floor, other than fishing gear, I'm gonna have a bait cooler live well up in the front corner strapped down to the floor. It's not gonna be movable unless I want to do the straps, and then we'll have our seats. So I hope that works out. All right, let me tidy this up. We'll be right back once I mount the console on, and we're gonna flip the battery switch, see what happens. All right, guys, let's see if we have power to the switch panel. We're gonna flip the switch. Oh, look at all those lights.
How to survive and thrive.
The radio automatically came on. I remembered the Bluetooth setting. That's pretty cool.
Let's see if the conflict fishing, I don't know.
You got my YouTube channel playing there. Oh, man, the cover sticks on. Let's see if we have a fish finder. No? Yeah, because everything should be hooked up. Okay, we don't have a fish finder. I know it was working because I tested it this morning. Might have to go track down a fuse maybe, who knows. Alright, well, we'll figure out the fish finder here in a second. Let's see if we have navigation lights. Yes, we do. Do we have our front spotlights? Let's wake the neighbors up, unfortunately. Oop, yep, we do. Rear lights, strip lights, and let's see, bilge pumps. Perfect. So not only do we have the bilge pump set up for the automatic with the float switch off the starting battery, we also have a switch that turns them on too. So that's pretty cool. Alright, I have got to figure out this fish finder. I don't smell anything burning. I don't see any smoke. Alright, you guys, that is it. So, probably a long video. Quite the adventure, you guys. This was a lot. Now I can let you guys in on a little secret. The reason why I didn't finish mounting my rear lights and the strip lights on the boat, we are going to be painting the boat. Originally I did not plan on painting it because the paint has held up really well. It's a very good paint, no chipping at all. I didn't really want to paint it, but after doing all this, I'm going to paint it. So when we get back to the next video, I'll try to run through it with you guys and show you what I'm going to do with the boat and how I'm going to do it. We'll see how good of a paint job we can get done here. So looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and figure out the fish finder before I head in to go to bed for the night. And other than that, we'll get back at it tomorrow. We have a full day tomorrow, hopefully, to work on it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the wiring video. I'm going to have some wiring diagrams that I made up for different scenarios. Depending if you have a single battery system, dual battery system, a few of those things. I probably won't do a wiring diagram for the switch panel, but if you guys go through the video, I explained it pretty well. So if we have to do one, we'll go ahead and do one, but for the moment, I don't plan on it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys later. Let's see where this boat's gonna go. Maybe eventually we'll get it done and get it on the water, but you know, we have about 3 weeks before we have a first trip planned for the river trip. So I am hoping I can have it done by then. It's a lot of work, but we're gonna tackle the floor next, I think. So I'll catch you guys later.